Today's program is brought to you by Korin, a supplier of Japanese chef knives and restaurant supplies. For more information, visit korin.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network. I'm your host and producer, Shari, and this is our 399th episode of this series, which is dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry. Today, my guest is an outstanding chef who is based in Copenhagen, who I spoke with on location when I was visiting back in the spring, and I will introduce him fully in a moment. But first, as I do in every show, I will start out with my PR tip, and then we will have my interview with a speed round, and I will close out with my solo dining experience. As the founder of Bayer Public Relations, I'm going to tip the show off with my PR tip of the week. So today's tip is to trust that the universe will give us exactly what we need when we need it. Yes, let's have faith that we will be provided with the tools, resources, and know-how to move forward and prosper, even if things don't come in the way that we expect them to or seem obvious in the moment. Let's simply embrace the notion that we have everything we need, everything happens for a reason, and every little thing is going to be all right, as Bob Marley sings, knowing that the universe has our back, no matter what. That's my tip today. So I'm excited about today's show. I have a special on-location interview from this past spring when I was on a solo trip, and it's with Jonathan Tam, the chef and owner of restaurant Jatak, which is in Copenhagen, Denmark. A Canadian-born chef, Jonathan's journey led him to Rene Redzepi's highly acclaimed influential restaurant, Noma, where he started as an intern and later became chef de partie, staying for 3 years. At Noma, Jonathan met chef Christian Puglisi, who he joined as head chef with the opening of Restaurant Relais in 2010 and remained there for a decade until the restaurant closed. In 2022, Jonathan opened Jatak, his first restaurant created with local ingredients and inspired by the cultural heritage of his team. The name Jatak means yes, please in Danish. Jonathan has been recognized by the Best Chef Awards as a new candidate 2023. It was a real privilege to get to sit down with Jonathan at his restaurant, Jatak, on a late morning while his team was prepping for service and talk about his career leading up to the opening of his instantly popular restaurant, which I was fortunate to dine at back in December when I was on another solo trip. And that is when I met Jonathan for the first time. I had a seat at the chef's counter and a really fabulous experience. The tasting menu was outstanding, and I made some friends while I was there, which we talk a little about in our interview. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for taking the time to chat with me, and to you and your team for the amazing hospitality. I look forward to returning. So here is my conversation with Jonathan Tam. Please enjoy. Hello, Jonathan Tam.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good. Excited to be part of the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. So I would say Jatak, but it's Jatak?
Jatak, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
Jatak.
Danish for yes please or yes thank you. And actually a lot of kitchens, that's what you would say instead of yes chef. You would say Jatak.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So we named it. It was my partner Sarah that suggested the name because for us, a lot of chefs, foreign chefs, that's kind of the first word you learn when you come to Denmark. But after living here for a while, you you understand outside the kitchen. It's used, very politely. Like when a guest comes in, you ask them, would you like some water? They'd say Jatak. But at the end of the night, hopefully you could be like, you want to try this extra course, or should we go out and do something else? And they could also say Jatak with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. So it's just more about that kind of positive feeling as you get to know someone more, what we try to kind of connect with our name of the restaurant.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good story behind the name.
Because I was refusing to have a Danish name, but then, we ended up on that.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. It will help me remember how to pronounce it, too. So I always like to start my interviews and find out more about people's backgrounds and how did you become a chef, or where did you grow up, and when did you know that's what you wanted to do with your career?
Yeah, well, I'm from, my background is I'm Cantonese, but born in Canada, from Edmonton in Alberta. But my parents were actually born and raised in Vietnam. So growing up, I didn't cook. I wasn't those chefs that was a kid cooking with my family, but I was one that really enjoyed food. Enjoyed a lot of food. And in the household, it was a mixture of Cantonese and Vietnamese cooking. Just with my mom and with my aunts, so got to just grew up with that and loved restaurants. When I was younger, if like we were late to get to a restaurant or I didn't get food, my dad would say I'd be very grumpy. But once I'm at the restaurant, I'd be very happy and just really looking forward to experience. So I always just loved food. And then in the teens, it's like when like cousins and friends, because my parents were very tight in the Chinese community. So it was very much about home cooking or the usual Chinese restaurants. Wasn't really experiencing much other cultures and different types of cooking. But then that piqued the interest, visiting some different types of, nothing special, just other types of food.
Right.
And then it's just caught on to be this kind of bug I got into, just visiting a lot of restaurants when I was young, just back home, all types of stuff. And then with it, just came like, maybe there is a connection with food, and kind of pursue that, just taking like the home economics, which is like the cooking class in high school. And just felt this connection. There's like a day the teacher wanted to make this competition, just cooking competition, whatever you want to do. And I got really into it. I was just doing all this weird stuff that I didn't really know what I was going on. And then actually lost to my best friend's girlfriend, or wife now. But it was just due to pictures. It wasn't even a taste. She just took pictures of our food and showed it. And then I lost to her like vegetarian risotto. But I guess that spark did something. And then I just continued. I decided to go into culinary school. I just felt like it was something I connected with.
Where'd you go?
At NATE. It's like a technical college in Edmonton. Really known for their culinary arts program in Canada. I did the 2-year program there. And then just like started working in restaurants while I was studying still. So just working all the time. And then even in the first semester, I kind of had the mindset that I wanted to travel to Europe. And it was actually to go to El Bulli for some reason.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when Anthony Bourdain launched that documentary he did on Ferran and El Bulli. And as I started in school, I found the book in the library and then convinced I was going to make it there to El Bulli. That was my whole goal, to prepare myself in culinary school right up until the last semester. And then it was in the last semester after knowing like, okay, this place takes like 30 people a season with like 8,000 chefs applying. So maybe I need to broaden my horizon.
Around what year is this?
This must have been between 2004 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah, 2004 and 5. And then it was in the last semester, I was like, maybe we need to... This was planned with a friend to kind of achieve this, to make it to Spain and get to be an intern at El Bulli. But I was like, we really don't have experience. Maybe we need to stretch out the network. So the other idea was to just write the other restaurants we found of interest on the 50 best list.
So you didn't apply? I don't know.
I think I applied because it was like an internet portal, but then at the same time, we're like, let's have a backup plan.
Yeah.
And then at that age, I thought.
I hear you. You're realistic or
well, still kind of dreamy because this is like Edmonton. We're not known for like ultra high end or Michelin restaurants, and I was just working at like a neighborhood bistro, but I stuck with it. So we actually wrote like 25 of the 50 restaurants on the 50 best list in 2006, and that's.
Now I want to go back and look at that list.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And only one replied, and that was Renee at Noma.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was a direct email.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and because I think it piqued my interest because it's like, back then all the press was saying how he worked at the French Laundry a bit, and as chefs, like coming out of education, French Laundry is like the Bible, Thomas Keller.
Yeah.
And then he also did a season at El Bulli, so I was like, man, this guy's got best of both worlds.
Right.
And then looking at the menu, it was also fascinating because he was already like focused on the Nordic philosophy. So he was working with apples and walnuts and blueberries and so things that actually can translate to the produce in Canada. Because if I went to Spain, I wouldn't be able to get like the famous red prawns or these things. But looking at Noma's menu, it's like, these are things that I can get from the farmer's market in Edmonton of really nice stuff. And then I don't know if it was fate or what it was, but he was the only one that replied.
Okay, so you went?
Yeah, so he's like, I wrote this letter saying I'd like to maybe think of being an apprentice or a commie.
Yeah.
I didn't have much experience, and he actually said, you know what, come. You could be here for a short time, and we can see what it leads to. And that was it. And then within that time, like nothing was promised. So myself, I got a visa where I could stay in Denmark for a year, not knowing if it would even lead to that. Like I had to go in Edmonton to meet like the Danish consulate and do all these things because I really like felt something special and wanted to make, if it turned into something, like be there for as long as possible. And I traveled with a friend here in Copenhagen. This was in November 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. Went there with my friend. That's where I met Christian Puisi, which later on also became a main mentor of mine. First person I met. And then, I just showed up at Noma, November 5th, I believe, 2007.
Wow. Okay. So, and then how long did you stay at Noma?
I was there for almost 3 years.
Oh.
Yeah, almost 3 years. And so went there with a friend.
You renewed the visa.
I had this holiday visa. I was living in a hostel. I was supposed to plan everything with a friend, but after the first day, my friend didn't want to do it. So he actually booked a trip to go back to Canada after a week, but I stayed. I felt something was going on in that place. Before it really took off. And I think in the end, they just couldn't get rid of me. Like Christian and Renee would be like, how long do you want to stay? And I said, I don't know, like I'm fine living in the hostel. I just want to be here and learn as much as possible. And they couldn't really get rid of me. And it was a huge learning curve because I didn't have much experience and definitely a lot of challenges, but at some point I kind of had the guts to, after some time, ask Renee for a job while I was on snacks section. He was just next to me. I think this was, I think when they got moved up to number 15 on the list and I was still there as an intern. And I just asked him, do you think I could work here? And he surprisingly said yes, because there were so many chefs trialing there that was much more experience. They came from Michelin restaurants in London and 1-2-star chefs and from New York, and for some reason Renee gave me an opportunity. So very grateful for that moment, and that turned into 3 years.
Well, now having dined there 3 times that's my experience, but it's such a special, it's not just a special restaurant, but it's amazing. I don't even know everyone that's come from there, but if somebody, and maybe they have already, but puts together a tree with, Noma or Renee at top and like all the chefs that have worked there and like have moved on to do other things, and it would be a very impressive tree or list.
I think like worldwide, like seeing what a lot of friends accomplish.
The inspiration or what that led, or as a pioneer of, I feel lucky to have dined there now a couple of times, and every experience has been really special. It's such an amazing operation, or they're doing there. It's pretty
and
pretty impressive.
For this entire time, like for 20 years,
to maintain that
consistently, but also just being very daring. I think one thing is a lot of the kind of institutions or 3 Michelin star restaurants, they continue their consistent thing, but with Noma, it's as if they just like scrap everything and relook at everything.
Yeah, and they push the boundaries, or they challenge even the guests to try things that you might not think you like or would even expect.
Yeah, but also, go into a different place and also,
their locations.
Have a look at what the people living there think of their food and their ingredients, but then they can come in and also show a whole different perspective, and also maybe have them appreciate even more. So I think there's just so many aspects of Noma and Renee that getting to be with him for those years really changed. I think I like to say, like Renee taught me how to cook in the sense of what is possible with these ingredients. Because back then it was very even more seasonal. I think very much very vegetable driven, very ahead of everything. Of course, he had the whole foraging aspect that showed us like what was around us can add so much flavor.
At that time, was it 3 seasons through the year with the vegetables?
No, it was it's a totally different setup. Yeah, it's like it was still fairly new. I think when I went, Noma was I think moving into its 4th year. So they even had like a 3-course lunch menu. We would do a la carte, and there'd be there'd be like a 7-course or a 12-course dinner menu.
Yeah.
A whole totally different thing, and like the team was only consisting of like 10 or 12 chefs. It was a whole different thing. But it was very much about what the farmers would bring us. And then just showcasing that. So if we were working with a cauliflower, back then that blew my mind that no one really was doing was we'd use the cauliflower, like the florets, but then we'd also find a way to use this outer stem or the core of it, and usually often in that one dish. So I think in that aspect, it was like very humbling that we would treat, maybe you would go like nose to tail with pork or beef, but with like Renee, it was very much about each vegetable was that way. And those years it was very forward thinking. Now everyone's kind of like utilizing food waste and limiting that, but then it was like no one was doing it.
Ahead of the curve. I dined there for the first time in 2018. I was here for the MAD conference, and that's when I met Renee. And I had come in 2017 just as a trip to come to Copenhagen. So I've now been here. This is my 4th time, and it was sort of like, wow, I've been here. I'm like a regular in Copenhagen. Yeah. But I went to Relay, I believe, in 2017, and then into Based, and I became more familiar with Christian Puglisi then, and you mentioned him as being your mentor. Take us now to, after your 3 years at Noma, what was next?
Yeah, I was due to I was thinking to go to New York. I was going to New York. I was going to just do some stages in New York. But just before I was leaving, I thought I was going to I was having to go back to Edmonton for personal things. But in the end, I thought of returning back to Copenhagen, and actually had lunch with Renee and talked about, was there a way I could stay on the team? Because he really didn't want me to go, but due to personal things, I was like, I've been gone for 3 years, and I was supposed to be gone for like 3 months.
Yeah.
But he had someone lined up for my position, waiting for like 6 months. So he's like, I have to let the chef have his opportunity. And then from there, I said, well, then in that case, I think I'll speak with Christian. Because Christian was a sous chef, just started a little bit before me at Noma, and super inspiring leader, how he led Noma and kind of like grew it as... the expectations and intensity grew, because it was literally when the rocket was taking off. And just seeing how he led the team was really inspiring. And that was his role. But just I could see like he was never, his responsibility wasn't like on the creative side. We didn't get to see what Christian's food was about, but I just felt like when it's his time, I think it would be very special just to see how he carried himself and his drive. So he left Noma for a few months before I did. And then I just had this meeting with Christian to just understand what Relay was about. And and then nothing was promised, because he saw me when I came as this intern, very inexperienced. And luckily, he was also a big part of where I became like a chef de partie at Noma. I got to stay there 3 years. And so we just had a meeting, talked about Relay. Nothing was said. I went to New York because I didn't know if I was coming back to Copenhagen. Nothing else lined up. I did my stages. And it was at that time in New York, Christian kind of was reached out and was like, come back to Copenhagen. I'd love for you to be part of Relay. And then from there, I was there for the whole time, for 10 years with Christian.
So you were there when I was there.
I was there. I could happily say I was probably there all the time. Anyone that dined at Relay.
I mean, obviously I didn't meet you then, but I remember I sat in the front room. There weren't that many tables in the front. I was by myself, and you could see the pass.
Yeah.
It was very special.
Thank you.
And that's so cool. Where'd you work in New York in that little interim?
Yeah, I did. I did 3 really different and fun stages. This was at WD50.
Oh yeah, Wiley.
Wiley.
Wiley's in my book. My chef book, and Christian's in my book too.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Wiley that was an amazing experience, because coming from Noma, the approach is very different. Because Noma was very much like looking at the ingredient and just seeing how to naturally present the landscape. Maybe herbs would just be put on, while Wiley at WD was a whole different way of thinking. It's a whole different language to me, because it was so technique-driven, a lot of interesting techniques with the hydrocolloids and textures and really like smart manipulation with food and the ingredients. Mm-hmm. So coming from Noma into that kitchen was wild. And I got to spend time in the savory kitchen and also in the pastry with Alex Stupak.
Oh, yeah, I know
when
Alex
he was still there.
You can go back. I did an interview with him last year.
Yeah. So that was one of the stages. I was like, a lot of fun. Learned a lot there. And then went to...
everyone you're talking about is so super talented.
Yeah, exactly.
And incredible. They're like geniuses and and nice people too.
Yeah, so it was amazing to kind of get that experience. And then I went to Momofuku Ko, the original one.
Okay.
Just when they had the counter, the small one.
I remember going.
Yeah, so that was great. And that also stuck with me, that kind of experience of the chef taking care of the guests at the counter. And then the third one was at Corton with Paul Liebrandt. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so very diverse.
Your resume is very impressive.
Yeah, well, they were just short, ones because I didn't manage to get a long visa. But it was 3 very different styles of cooking. Yeah,
well, Paul's food, I dined at Corton, I think twice, and know him as well. And he's he's super talented and very different styles, but all like such high level.
Yeah. So that was a goal as a young cook to see and absorb as much as possible. But yeah, those are three. Yeah, really, and then just getting to live in New York for like 3 months, dining and experiencing all that food and checked out all the restaurants, and then came back to Copenhagen and helped open Relay with Christian.
So you opened Relay with Christian, and then you were there, you said 10 years?
Yeah, the whole span, from 2010 to 2020, when he decided to close. Yeah.
So a restaurant to have a run for 10 years was so hard to this industry. Hard to maintain a restaurant.
Yeah,
so that in itself is impressive that you were with him for the whole run. So when did the idea come to open your own place? Was that after the closing, or in the back of your mind through these years, were you always thinking, one day I want to have my own restaurant?
I think it was... there was a period at Relay I was just with, like you said, we were doing this 10 years, and the whole 10 years was very exciting. I think it's very rare as an employee to kind of be part of something that kind of changed in these whole 10 years, because Christian had really interesting goals and challenges. He really challenged gastronomy when we opened. We were like a 4-course restaurant charging like 350 kroner, and we somehow got a Michelin star with that model after a couple of years. And then from there he wanted to be certified organic. So that really forced us to like totally change the way we cooked, because there wasn't so many organic farms and they also had limited resources, but we wanted to commit to that as like a contract with the guests when they come in, knowing that we source sustainably and what you're having on your plate is ethically and healthy. And then from there, they branched onto us having our own farm after a few years. So it was part of that. And that changed everything how we work, because then, we'd have handling this logistic of planning the menu so that the vegetables were harvested at our farm called Farm of Ideas. This is about an hour and a half away on the day. And they'd be coming they finally arrive into the kitchen at like 2:00, and we open at 5. So that whole dynamic made it very exciting and totally changed our cuisine. And it was always just things like that. Every 2.5 years, there was some kind of new ambitious project. So in those times, I was very happy at Relay and could see helping Christian develop. And with it turned into the different restaurants.
Yeah, because when did Based open?
Ooh, I don't know the exact year.
Or it was after?
It was
Relay.
after. It was after Relay. There was also a wine bar called Manfred's just across the street.
Oh, and I went there.
Yeah.
I remember on that trip, somebody suggested it to me, and it was fabulous. And I feel, living in New York, there's some restaurants that are more like industry favorites, I would say.
Yeah.
Like one I'm thinking of in Brooklyn, like the Four Horsemen.
Right.
Or, that people tend to go to. And I feel Manfred's I would describe it as that way.
Yeah,
maybe.
definitely.
Like the industry people knew, like, this is a spot you want to go.
Yeah, it was a place
and
you could just have
and good
couple
vibe.
dishes, and you had the famous tartare, and they had a great wine list. So it was super affordable. Even Relay, which was even after the Michelin star, was very affordable compared to the other kind of ambitious restaurants.
And I remember that block is also a really nice street.
Yeah.
I think it's some people's favorite block in Copenhagen.
Yeah, it didn't start that way though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when it started, it was actually
7 years, so.
in Nørrebro. It was actually one of the most dangerous streets.
Oh, okay.
Because you had 2 different gangs running the streets and had their operations there. So we actually had like drug dealers in our doorstep, like counting money and handling drugs out of our courtyard. But that's what I love about Christian, because he had limited resources, but he had the ambition and he believed in it. And I believe, thanks to Relay and Manfred's, that block changed. people.
I'm
And now,
second giving him credit for it.
and all these like kind
Yeah.
of interesting small businesses and artists are there now that the drug dealers are kind of pushed off the street. And it's, one of the nicest places in Copenhagen right now.
Yeah. Well, we see that in New York where neighborhoods change, and
Exactly.
it is a lot of times due to a restaurant going in or
just having this community feel.
Changing a neighborhood. So back to my question with, when did the idea come about of you wanting to open your own place?
I guess, yes, it was fairly late. I think just being part of it for 10 years and also COVID came. I was still, we were still running relay and dealing with COVID and the lockdowns and the restrictions. Actually, we even did a pop-up restaurant up north that we moved in the times. With Christian,
okay.
because we couldn't really serve guests in our small dining room. So, we found this farm and we all lived up there for
cool. Making the best of it.
8 weeks doing things like that and still going for it. But then I think at some point, it was just a feeling like it was time. It was time to kind of find my own path. And then also Christian decided to close relay. So then it was just it was kind of the only way, because I think there wasn't anywhere else I wanted. I felt like I wanted to start again. I think it just made sense to have my own project.
Yeah, because in his other places, before we started recording, I mentioned how when I got into town on Sunday night, I ended up going over to Based and having this phenomenal meal. It's casual, but it's between the charcuterie and the mozzarella and the pizza. I was just wow, this is so good.
It's amazing.
Reminded how good it is. But it's a more casual restaurant. And so, I guess your opportunity, or you didn't want to stay within the group. It was kind of time to maybe do something else.
Yeah, I think it's casual, but it's still what I love about even the wine bar or Based, how ambitious it is, because Christian.
I was just about to say ambitious. It's definitely ambitious.
I think there's nowhere I know of that is sourcing raw milk and making their own mozzarella every day for that amount of people. And
you can taste the difference.
Right?
You really can.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not about comparing it to an amazing mozzarella in Italy. This is something of its own.
Yeah.
So I think that craftsmanship and all the charcuterie is made from this local pork, Hinson pork that we work with here. So I think what I love the approach of Christian's cooking is. It might seem simple, but there's a lot of ambitions and commitment in terms of sourcing that even you could challenge, say, some high-end restaurants probably don't even go that far. So I think there was always a way that, me and Christian, or he'd love for me to be part of it. And I think he would have, even with COVID, would have done anything to take care of me. But I think at the same time, it was time for me. I knew he had a lot going on, and I think it was, it was time for me to kind of take on a challenge. But he's been such a great support with the opening of Jatak.
I love it. I love the community of chefs and the support. So your concept of Jatak and this neighborhood, how did you go about finding this spot and describe your menu? Because I'm sure, obviously, there's inspiration from all these experiences you've had, but it's unique to itself. It's your place.
Thank you. Yeah, how to sum up? It's been a crazy journey. Now we've been open 2 years, and came across this place with my partner, Sarah. I always loved this street. I live in Nürburgring, and I always wanted a restaurant in Nürburgring. Relay was in Nürburgring. I never really leave Nürburgring, to be honest.
It's a cool neighborhood. I like the vibe.
And there's lots of
despite the construction, I like that.
Yeah, the street now is insane. But we're on Ranselskill. This is also back then more like a workings quarter. So also, not a lot going on the street. But in the last few years, it's changing a lot. So very exciting to be part of this community in this neighborhood. But COVID happened. Relays closed. and came across this small space. This used to be a cocktail bar called Guilt.
Okay.
And I came and checked it out, and it was pretty nice. It was really nice as a cocktail bar, and it wasn't really sure if it would be allowed like a kitchen or cooking in here. So that initial idea was kind of being just me and Sarah taking over the space, not really changing it, being like used to be called P. Franco in London. They had like a few like plugged in inductions, and they would just that's it. Keep it more like a wine bar, do a couple dishes, because we were very, we didn't have investors. It was just me and her.
And what's her background?
She's my girlfriend. She's a educated architect.
Yeah.
Used to work at Noma with the banquet team. That's where we first met.
Glad you guys
Yeah,
met.
exactly. This was many years ago.
And opening a restaurant.
Exactly.
It's all very cool.
Yeah, so I think normally as a chef, you're always away from family, away from your partner.
Yeah.
And then now we found a way where we're a bit more, we're working a lot, but at least we're on a daily
You
part
see
of each other's lives. Yeah, so between me and Sarah, we came across this place. And the idea was not really to renovate, plug in inductions, see how far we can get away with serving food and having customers. But then the COVID lockdown just kept getting extended.
Yeah.
Because the initial idea was we just open this way, and then maybe in a couple of years we'll renovate and actually have the restaurant we want to have. But then in that time, COVID just kept continuing on. People are wondering what is going to be a restaurant. So then we just decided to start peeling down some of the walls. And then in the end, Sarah completely renovated the place. Everything changed, and then we built the restaurant that we dreamed of in that time. And then we opened in January 2022. It was pretty delayed.
You're still pretty new.
Yeah, just a little over 2
years.
years.
Yeah.
And it was crazy, dealing with COVID.
Yeah,
and,
I know. I don't know, but
just in terms of just the build of the restaurant, the space was less than 100 square meters. It's tiny, but it still took like a year and a half to build. And then the idea it was tricky to conceptualize something in that time because everyone again was like, will we get to dine out again?
Yeah, it's a
How
different
is everyone
mindset.
eat? Do we have to cook with masks all the time? Will people want to spend money? So we kind of stuck with the idea of being more like a bar. Maybe part of the restaurant would just be doing a la carte snacks, and we'll do cocktails because this was known as a cocktail bar, and we actually have a license to open late. And then maybe we'll have this counter where we'll do a tasting menu because that's what that's what I'm known for all the restaurants I work at. This kind of like seasonal high-end cooking. And then we just launched this. We called it the Jatak Beta, which was the test. I made up this menu, which was fusing the two ideas of like smaller shared plates and then sneak in some of these like more refined bites in between that you normally see in the tasting menu. And the whole premise was I didn't want to continue with the Nordic cooking because I think that would kind of be disrespectful to being like a mini Noma or a small relay, another version of it. But I wanted to find a way that I could still carry on using the local produce, working really close with all the farmers and being hyper seasonal, but then telling the background of my culture and also with the team. But as I'm not trained in Chinese or Vietnamese cooking, and I think as I was becoming more experienced, I realized how much I did not know of anything I grew up eating. And also having a daughter, wanting to kind of implement that culture, I felt I needed to learn. And I think what Jatak is about is also a learning journey for myself. So, it's not recipes or dishes from Relay or Noma. There are new things we're developing because I'm kind of channeling a cuisine I didn't know. And then with that, seeing it's an extension of the Nordic cooking is just, I don't think the farmers are getting the recognition they have because I think Copenhagen is known for all these like forward-thinking restaurants and how they evolved. But when I first came in 2007, like we could not find a farm growing great basil or amazing tomato or coriander, especially organically. But now with the chefs driven being more ambitious, we have amazing farmers that's growing all these varieties of vegetables that, when I first came, you wouldn't see. So, and they work closely with us. So even with our first year, I was able to have them grow different Asian varieties of greens and different types of celtus, things you don't really see or have access to, a lot of different herbs that the farmers were willing to grow even before I opened the restaurant, luckily due to the relations. So I think with it, we're able to look at, Cantonese or Vietnamese dishes or even Mexican, but have these ingredients actually grown here, while 10 years ago you couldn't do that. So I see it as this progression of the Nordic cooking that is having a little bit more story-driven with our culture.
That's amazing. And I dined here in December at your chef's counter, and I loved it. Very special experience. I love sitting at chef's counter, especially, I dine out a lot solo, so always tasting menus and chef's counter, it's like the perfect combo.
Yeah,
soloist.
I think.
And I made friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had friends. That was a great night, and I think for us at our counter, we work very special because it's fully the chefs that take care of the guests from arrival. So it's us chefs that's checking in on what water you want to drink, and we're the ones presenting all the wines and knowing the wine pairing, and also doing bottle service. I think a lot of times you would have like a front of house, but we only have 2 front of house members, and they're managing the dining room and also supporting the kitchen. But it's expected of the chefs to know kind of all aspects of the food and beverage and service. So it's a really, really special experience.
Yeah, no, I love that we're sitting here now at off hours doing this interview. It's I love being in the restaurant when the team's prepping and getting ready.
Gradually getting ready, and then when the guests come, it's this whole different thing.
Yeah, no, it's the energy and vibe changes, and I'm looking about trying to guess how many seats you have here.
It's tiny, yeah. So
we're that 30 or less?
We're 24.
Okay.
24 and less than 100 square meters. Literally, what you can see the whole restaurant. So we have the kitchen where we have 8 seats at the counter. And then we don't have a prep kitchen. We don't have a walk-in fridge. We don't have additional storage. Everything is happening in this.
I can see the prep.
Yeah, so it's it's very.
Wow, there's nothing downstairs. There's no basement.
No basement. Everything is just happening here.
Wow. Yeah. Making magic happen. It's great natural light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we opened the place thinking it was going to be kind of like doing snacks and small plates. And then luckily, thanks to the support of a lot of the local chefs from the mentors, it kind of just took off. And then we end up getting the Michelin star in like 5 months after COVID.
Incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's
very much due to
doesn't happen for everyone.
Very lucky, and the team, just a great team that managed to come together and and then just continue to evolve and
So, because you're an intimate restaurant, and I'm now thinking, wow, I got a reservation here on my own. I'm like impressed with myself because I would imagine it's hard, your reservations and getting spots here. When you got the Michelin star, did it change that? How was it at the beginning? Was it always?
The beginning was crazy, because just even after our test dinners, like Renee posted about our egg tart.
Yeah,
and then
that's all you need. There's your PR.
Exactly. But same with Christian, having amazing support. And I think just with the timing, also, a lot of restaurants remained closed at that time in beginning of 2022. We were one of the few because we couldn't getting the government support. We just opened and did the whole thing with masks and only being able to open till 11 o'clock. But we had to do it. everything got delayed so long. But I think with it, tons of support from everyone, and it took off. Bookings were crazy, and I think with the start, it also prolonged that. So we had an amazing 2 years so far.
Yeah, congratulations. So I always say, what's next? Or do you have the vision of opening another restaurant, or you want to have just a really long, solid run here? I mean, like we said, like Relay, it's impressive 10 years.
Yeah.
Noma's been going for a long time.
Yeah, well, I think like as we talk about, the restaurant is very small, but it was also purposeful, because I think I wanted to create a space where I wanted to be at every day, where it was just enough to have us like be busy, but also like have time to be very creative and be very like personal experience. So yeah, I'm here all the time, and I'm turning down a lot of collaboration dinners to travel, because I just really want to cook in my space. So right now it's just focusing on that.
Yeah.
But it's been a crazy 2 years. Things still feel very new. So we're still challenging a lot of things, every aspect of the restaurant each week. Should we try this? Should we implement this? So I think, of course, it is developing the restaurant, and luckily still having members that have been here since the beginning. So just having their input, how to kind of continue to evolve. But who knows, as chefs,
come back a year or two from now,
to have
this conversation.
More casual restaurant. I dream of like maybe a Chinese bakery. We don't really have that here. But right now,
I'd come.
Yeah, so it'd be great. Just kind of like all these things I feel like is missing. That's what's great about Copenhagen. I think there's still a lot of opportunity. There still is becoming more diverse. There's so many great restaurants now, not just on the high-end level, thanks to chefs with similar story to me. Came here to work at the high-end restaurants and then loved the city. Now they're staying here, and now they're opening their own thing, telling their own story. So I think Copenhagen is still so exciting for the next few years, and guests are still very open. So I think there's still so many things. So,
yeah, I hear you. I will be back, and I'm thinking maybe I plan it though in like July, August, and try and get a moment where you can. I know people jump in the water.
Exactly.
I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
I've never been here when I would even think of jumping in the water.
Exactly. It's end April now, and it's still pretty gloomy. Yeah. So I think, in those summer months, everything changes, and we get the summer produce, and the city just comes alive.
Yeah, it's a great city. I like it here. Okay, so before we wrap up, two things. One, I have this new book out, Chef Wise. And so I love asking chefs, what's your top advice for aspiring young cooks or people who might be listening or thinking of becoming a chef or restaurateur? Do you have like a top tip, top advice?
I think for young cooks, I think it's just finding that place and taking the time to learn all aspects of it. Yes, exactly. I think as a young cook, you're very much about maybe learning that chef's signature dish and getting a few recipes. Maybe you do a year, and then you want to jump onto the next restaurant. But I think to find a pivotal time where you do find that mentor, and not just learn to cook, but really understand how all aspects of a restaurant is. Because a restaurant takes so many pieces, and the cooking part is such a small thing. So I think, just what we're trying to do here, have our chefs, every week we have a blind wine tasting. That it's not to have them nail this wine, it's just for them to kind of develop their own palate regarding wine, and that shares this knowledge so that, they could step into a restaurant and as a consumer, like be able to decipher a wine list well, but also down the line as a cook, having an understanding just of the beverage side of things. Because if you want a restaurant, it can't just be about the business side of the food. You also need to understand how the beverage works. So in that sense, that's just one aspect, but having that mentor where you grow with the restaurant and understanding all facets of the restaurant, of the business, will just prepare you for a lot, because when it comes time to open your restaurant, you're going to realize how many new things you're going to all of a sudden have to learn, or kind of solutions you have to fix all the time.
Well, yeah, it's a whole different thing to be, whether you're a chef or you're a chef owner or chef co-owner or partner. Yeah. It's a business.
It's a business, and you gotta understand all sorts of things and deal with all sorts of solutions, materials, contractors. Understand. All of a sudden, you're kind of a plumber. You're kind of an electrician.
Yeah, I've heard this before.
Exactly. So I think in that sense of like having your eyes open and using those years within a restaurant to understand all aspects of it.
Awesome. That's great advice. And then I like to play a speed round with my guests.
Wow.
Which is fun. I'll give you some choices, such as chocolate or vanilla, and you're going to pick your preference.
Wow.
You want to play?
Yes, of course. Let's do it.
Okay, so here we go. Eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant?
Eat out at a restaurant. Should I follow up with reasoning?
If you'd like to, or we could just go through it fast. It's up to you. Every time I play, this is a little different.
Okay, but definitely eat out at a restaurant. My apartment's getting renovated, so I really don't have a kitchen. So, but other than that, it's also just always exciting to get kind of new inspiration.
Yeah. How about indoor dining or al fresco dining?
I like indoor because I like to see how the restaurant operates.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Wine, beer, cocktail, mocktail, or champagne?
Wine.
Tasting menu or a la carte?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I still like tasting menus. I like to just leave it in the chef's hands.
And not think.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best parts of tasting menus is just you sit down, someone's going to take care of you.
Whether it's a casual spot or even like the local Chinese place, I think I like to just say, chef, please go for it.
And here you're only tasting menu,
We're
right?
only tasting menu, yeah.
How about communal table or chef's counter?
Chef's counter. Chef's counter because I just love that possibility of, letting the chef know where a bite of food really touched me, but also just kind of get to know them, understand their philosophy.
How about small plates or large plates?
I'm into large plates. I grew up in a Chinese family, and I love the lazy Susan, big plates of food, everything coming at once, and you can just keep spinning the lazy Susan around and getting back at the dishes.
I feel like we don't see enough lazy Susans in restaurants.
Yeah.
Here and there. Tipping or all-inclusive charge?
Tipping. I think tipping, I think even if it's been all-inclusive, I think being in the industry, you always want to try to leave something for the team to just know that you really appreciate how they took care of us tonight.
Okay, cool. A few more. Open kitchen or closed kitchen?
Open kitchen, both as a guest and as a chef. Just being able to instantly know how the guests are doing, what the vibe's like in the dining room. I love open kitchens.
Yeah, well, we've got one here. Smorboard. Am I saying that right? Smorboard?
Smorboard.
Smorboard. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm saying it right. Yeah.
Or straight hot dog.
Smorboard. Because it's like a festive thing.
Yeah, I've had this trip. I've had a couple.
Yeah.
I've had a couple. You have to. I feel. Do you have a favorite? Like you would go for the herring or?
No, I'm into the breaded and fried fish.
Yeah.
All the different variations. You could have it with remoulade. You could have it with shrimps on top. Anytime when it's with the fried fish.
Yeah.
Or the crazy one is the Paris boeuf, which is white bread, and they cut out a hole in it, and they have a patty with beef, and then they cook it with it, and you get it with raw egg yolk and garnishes. That one's crazy.
I have not had that.
Yeah.
I've had more. I've had herring. I had eel. What else I have? I went to Shone
Schoeneman's, yeah, that's
Schoeneman's.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an institution
It's
here.
an institution. I highly recommend to do like the Christmas lunches. We do it as like a team, but also just with family, just having like a full-on flight of smørrebrød with like starting from seafood to the meat and the pâtés and then cheese. Christmas time when it's a lot of fun. With
When I was here in December, I tried to go there, and I'm good at making these like tasting menu restaurant reservations in advance. And in my head, I was like, that's a casual lunch place.
Yeah.
So I tried to go, and they're like, oh no, it's Christmas. Like, we're fully booked.
Yeah. You gotta book. You gotta book in like October.
This trip, I made the reservation early. I learned my lesson. I think that time of year, it's very popular, and people go and they sit there for like 4 hours.
Exactly.
And have
tons of schnapps and
holiday meal.
Tons of beers.
It was special. I enjoyed it.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so my last two are cheese plate or dessert.
I like dessert. Yeah, I like dessert too. I like sweet and like acidity. So I'm more of a dessert.
Yeah. And last one I have is Manhattan, Brooklyn, Copenhagen, or anywhere else you've lived over the years. I don't know. When you were in New York, were you?
I love New York. Yeah, I love New York.
Did you live in Manhattan or
no? I lived
Queens
in Brooklyn.
or Brooklyn or
Brooklyn.
Bronx or?
Yeah, I was living in Brooklyn, in Park Slope.
Okay, it's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, and that was an amazing kind of venture all the time, seeing all the different parts of Brooklyn. So I think Brooklyn's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
I love Copenhagen. Sometimes it's a bit quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have a restaurant there.
in New York?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of great restaurants in Brooklyn. I live in Manhattan. I'm pretty good at getting out there and checking places out, but sometimes I'm like, I can't keep up almost with all the places opening in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
so.
But anytime the idea is to go visit New York, me and the family, no hesitation. Love to go visit. So.
Yeah, well, let me know when you come. And I feel it's about time we met because I feel I've been to restaurants you were working at and probably crossed paths or saw you.
Many years now. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you look familiar. Yeah, but for some reason we never met. And so it's great to sit down with you now and hear your story. And congratulations on everything you've achieved, and I can't wait to come back and dine here and see whatever you do next. I wish you the best and have a long run.
Thank you so much. It was great having you as a diner, and it was even more fun to get to do this interview with you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And your team has been working pretty efficiently, quietly, and that's also the magic you see, in the prep. So
they're very smooth. They're very smooth.
Thank you.
Today's program is brought to you by Korin, a supplier of Japanese chef knives and restaurant supplies. Korin is proud of their Japanese culture and traditions, but they want you to know that their products are not just for Japanese restaurants. Their knives and tableware bring out the best qualities of food from every culture and fit into every restaurant from French to Pan-Asian to American. And that is why they're located in New York City, where people from every country in the world come to eat. Korin's Tribeca showroom is home to the most extensive collection of Japanese chef knives in the world, including Japan. Stop by to view their exquisitely designed tableware and the rarest natural sharpening stones. They have a whole range of knife services from repair and rust removal to reshaping and realigning. Korin is dedicated to this ideal, bringing the highest quality Japanese design to your table so you can experience the unparalleled quality of Japanese craftsmanship in your home or restaurant. For more information, visit Korin.com.
Welcome back to All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer, and my guest today is Jonathan Tam, the chef and owner of restaurant Jatak in Copenhagen, Denmark. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I truly enjoyed sitting down with Jonathan and am grateful that he took the time and loved my experience at his restaurant. I hope you all can get there one day too and experience it for yourselves, as it's really terrific. So thank you and congratulations, Jonathan and team. Okay, it's time for my solo dining experience. So this week it's at Din Tai Fung. Here's the rundown. The location, 1633 Broadway, between 50th and 51st Street, near Times Square, in New York City. The concept, renowned Taiwanese-based restaurant chain known for soup dumplings and noodles. The owners of the U.S. locations, Albert and Erin Yang. So why did I go? Well, this was a big deal opening this summer in New York. It's the first East Coast location of this extremely popular restaurant chain, which has locations all around the world, but I hadn't been to any yet. And I love soup dumplings, so I was excited to go. My experience. So the restaurant is reservations only, and reservations go or went online at midnight. So one evening at midnight, I went onto their website and I got a reservation for one a couple weeks out, a weekday early dinner. And when I arrived at the restaurant, I was greeted by a host and instructed to go downstairs. There's an elevator or a staircase. I took the stairs. The restaurant is basement level. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, I saw a cute little dumpling mascot they have in one corner, which, yes, I did take a picture with at the end of my meal, as why not get into the fun? And then I saw there was a little roped off area with a line to check in at the front desk, which kind of felt like a hotel check-in. So I got in line. There were a few people waiting ahead of me. There are also a few people standing around waiting for their tables. It's a very spacious lobby area. It's a giant restaurant in operation, as I will get more into. So I waited a couple of minutes and then I checked in with one of the hosts who told me they'd let me know when my table was ready and that I could wait in a little room to the side. And I was given a paper menu with a pencil where I could mark off which dumplings and dishes I wanted, which I waited to do until I got to my table and talked to my server because I figured I should discuss the menu a little bit before I made my decisions. But it was nice to have the menu to look at. So I went to the waiting room, and about 10 minutes later, someone came in, called my name, and led me to my table near where they have a glass enclosed kitchen where the chefs are making the dumplings. So I could see some of the kitchen action from my seat. And this restaurant was busy with the volume that they do, with the amount of people they were serving and the amount of servers. It had really high energy and seemed like the place to be. My server or servers, I had a couple people helping me out, guided me through the menu, helped me decide what to get. They also poured my soy sauce vinegar combo in a ginger dish that was on the table, and their combination is 1 part soy, 3 parts vinegar. And on my table too, there were instructions of how to eat xiao long bao, which I believe was on every table, little table tent. So I ordered, I ate, I enjoyed, I had a good time, and I had some leftovers to take with me. So what did I get? I started with a cucumber salad, and then I had the kurabuta pork XLB or xiao long bao, which had 10 pieces. And then I also had the shrimp and pork spicy wontons, which was 8 pieces. And for dessert, chocolate and mochi XLB with cream, and that was 5 pieces. My take. So the cucumbers were a really nice way to start the meal. They were refreshing, crunchy, delicious, had a nice flavor combo. And then shortly after, my soup dumplings arrived, or xiaolongbao, and they were beautifully prepared. You could just see the love and care that went into each dumpling. I ate as many as I could, and I loved the wontons. The spicy pork combo was delicious, and everything went really well together. And the dessert mochi dumplings, they were very nice. If you're a chocolate lover, it's a good way to end the meal. So the ambiance. As I said, this is a very large restaurant. It's 25,000 square feet. They have seating for 450 guests and a staff of 500, and estimate that they will serve 3,000 to 5,000 diners a day. The space is formerly Mars 2112. For anyone who's been in New York as long as I have, you may recall that restaurant. And the new design by David Rockwell is modern. It has warm brown tones and some gold and red accents, including little lanterns. For seating, it does have many larger tables or booths for bigger parties, as well as smaller 2-tops and 4-tops. So it's welcoming to everyone. The space is pretty dark overall. There's a bar in the front room that's a little more lit up, and the immaculate kitchen in the middle of the dining room, which I had mentioned, is also bright. It's enclosed in glass windows, so diners can view the chefs preparing dumplings. It almost looks like they're in a lab. And I find David Rockwell projects to always be beautifully designed, very sophisticated and impressive. And this was all that. So it's perfect for dining with friends or going solo. Interesting tidbit. So Din Tai Fung now has 16 locations in the US, including this New York City opening, and they have 181 locations worldwide, which is incredible. They originally opened in Taipei in 1958, and New York City is now its largest location. And their soup dumplings are known to have 18 folds, which they call the golden ratio, and each one weighs between 20.8 and 21.2 grams. So it's very precise. They're also guesstimating they will make over 10,000 dumplings a day in New York City. Yes, that's a serious number. Personal fun fact. I have not been to Taiwan yet, but I do have a couple of chefs who are in my Chefwise book who are from Taiwan, and they include Richie Lin of Mu Mei in Taipei City, and I got to meet him at Asia's 50 Best in Seoul earlier this year, as well as Kai Ho and pastry chef Angela Lei of Tawar, also in Taipei City. And I'll also mention a contributing chef is Urchin Chang of Bao, which is a Taiwanese street fair concept that has several restaurants in London. I got to visit one last year, which was excellent. So I hope to get to Taiwan one day. But meanwhile, it's great to have wonderful Taiwanese food in New York City. The cost of my meal was $57. That's not including tax and gratuity. Would I go back? Yes, maybe next time with some friends so I can try more things. Their website is dintaifungusa.com, and Instagram is at Din Tai Fung USA, and that's DINTIAFUNG USA. Okay, so that's the show. Thank you so much to Jonathan Tam, the chef and owner of Restaurant Jatak in Copenhagen, Denmark, for joining me on this episode. I really love chatting with you and experiencing your restaurant and your cooking over the years. I look forward to returning to Jatak and seeing you in the future and following your career. Congratulations on all you've accomplished. It's very impressive. To learn more about Restaurant Jatak and Jonathan, you can go to their website, which is jataccph.com, and that's JATAKCPH.com. And you can follow on social media at JatakCPH. That's JATAKCPH. And Jonathan is at JTAM1342. And you can follow me at Shari Bayer, at Bayer PR, and at All Industry. My Facebook page is All in the Industry. My websites are BayerPublicRelations.com, ShariBayer.com, and AllInTheIndustry.com. All of our shows are archived at HeritageRadioNetwork.org. We're also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can check out my YouTube channel, Shari Bayer, as well. Also, my book, Chefwise, Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World by Phaidon, is available wherever books are sold. Many thanks to my engineer today, Armin. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer. I will be back soon with a new show. Hope you'll tune in then. And thank you as always for being part of All in the Industry. Bye. All in the Industry is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.